So we will do that. Good morning, all. This meeting is called to order. Mr. Trobman, has anyone signed up for public comment?
Morning, Commissioners. No, we have no public comment this morning.
Thank you, Mr. Trobman. Good morning, Ms. Miller.
Good morning, sir.
How are you this morning?
I'm doing quite well.
Hey, that's good. We got a big agenda to tackle today, so
Yes, sir.
we're going to jump right in. We have a case to reconsider under item 3.
Yes, sir, that is correct. Commission Appeals is requesting a letter of continuing jurisdiction in case number 2721799, which was voted on docket 7 on February 23rd, 2021. The commission voted to rehear the case, but in error, the decision was mailed instead. The decision has not yet become final, and we're requesting a letter of continuing jurisdiction so that the rehearing that the commissioners voted may be conducted. Commissioner Alvarez?
I agree.
Commissioner Demerson? Commissioner Demerson?
Yeah, it froze for a second. I agree with staff recommendation.
Thank you, sir. And Mr. Chairman?
Agreed.
Thank you very much.
All right, let's consider tax liability cases under agenda item 4. No tax cases on either docket 9 or 10.
That's correct. None this week.
Okay, no fair housing cases on agenda item 5.
That's correct.
Let's move to agenda item 6. One wage claim case pulled for additional discussion on docket 9. No wage claim cases pulled on docket 10.
Yes, sir. The case pulled for docket 9 is case number 19-059095-0. Commissioner Demerson?
The employer filed a timely appeal to the commission. The employer's attorney gave credible and consistent firsthand testimony proving non-receipt of the AT decision by his law firm. He is the one who checks the mail, and he gave sworn testimony that he did not get the decision. It does not matter that his client told him over the phone that the client had received a demand for payment letter. The attorney acted reasonably in asking his client to forward a copy of an unknown document to him. The attorney needed to see what the client was talking about before filing any response to the commission. There's no duty under the law for a party representative such as an attorney to call TWC to check up on an unknown document. The attorney was entitled to be sure of what he was doing before he did it. The attorney was entitled to be sure, and he promptly appealed once he established the need to file an appeal. Accordingly, we should hold the employer's appeal to the commission timely and have the case resubmitted on the merits of the wage claim.
The employer's appeal should be dismissed as late. A timeliness hearing was conducted at which the employer was unable to provide clear and consistent testimony to rebut the presumption of receipt. Dismiss late employer appeal. The claimant was an employee, correct employee named $7,672.50 wages owed.
Finally, wage claim commission appeal resubmit.
Thank you. We will resubmit the case. So that was the only pulled wage claim case on docket 9, none pulled on docket 10. I did send you the wage claim short form dissent lists for dockets 9 and 10 a moment ago.
I'll move to accept staff recommendations on the remaining wage claim cases on docket 9 and docket 10.
I second the motion except for those cases on which I'm dissenting as reflected on the wage claim short form dissent list for docket 9 and docket 10.
I concur with the chairman's motion, except for the cases on which I'm dissenting as reflected in the wage claim short form dissent list for docket 9 and 10.
Motion passes with the exceptions noted. Let's move to agenda item 7, consideration of unemployment insurance cases on docket 9. Please proceed when you're ready.
Case number 2515544. Commissioner Alvarez?
I would reverse the decision. The claimant drove for the employer a ride-sharing concern and was at all times an independent contractor. As a result, there was no separation from the employment, and the claim should be voided from its inception. The overpayment should be reversed. Reverse the AT valid claim, void the separation determination.
The AT decision should be modified to sever the validity of claim issue. As to the job separation, due to the claimant's underlying health conditions and the nature of the job, I would agree that a separation was the result of the disaster. However, a memo should be sent to UIA and OS to investigate the claimant's availability for full-time work. Accordingly, we should modify the AT decision, no voluntary leaving, disaster, sever the validity of claim issue, and send a memo on availability.
Set aside the AT, void the additional claim.
Yes, sir. We will void the claim. And do you,
Short form.
yes, just for clarity, Mr. Chairman, do you have a vote on the overpayment? I'm sorry, my apologies. No overpayment on this case has been listed as an issue. And so we have the majority vote to void the claim. And a memo will go to UIA and OS. Was that ability or availability or both, Commissioner Demerson?
Availability.
AV, okay, availability. We will send that memo. And I have your dissent, sir.
Thank you.
Case number 2584683, Commissioner Demerson.
The AT decision should be affirmed. Regarding timeliness, TWC records show that the claimant opened the determination on the same day it was sent to her electronic inbox. However, the claimant did not appeal until almost 3 months later, and she testified that she did not appeal earlier because she wanted to get her documents in order. Such a reason does not constitute a good cause exception to the timeliness rules. Furthermore, there is no evidence that the claimant tried to contact TWC during the appeal timeframe, and she did not file her appeal weeks after TWC stopped experiencing technical difficulties. Thus, the claimant's appeal is not timely, and we do not have jurisdiction to consider the underlying merits of this case. Accordingly, we should affirm the AT decision, untimely claimant appeal, voluntary leaving, no chargeback.
The decision should be reversed. The claimant was not signed up for electronic correspondence and had difficulty getting to her post office box due to the lockdown. The claimant was unable to use her personal mailbox due to break-ins in her apartment complex. Additionally, the claimant's attempts at using the online system were frustrated by system issues. The claimant's appeal should be deemed timely and the case remanded for merits testimony. Reverse the AT, timely appeal, and remand.
Affirm the AT, untimely claimant appeal, voluntary leaving, no chargeback.
Commissioner Alvarez, are you going to dissent?
Yes, Ms. Miller. Let me short form dissent.
Yes, sir. I have your short form dissent.
Case number 2614461, Commissioner Alvarez.
The decision should be reversed. The claimant was absent because she was ill with suspected COVID. The claimant contacted her supervisor repeatedly while she was out sick. And when she recovered, she asked to be placed back on the schedule. The employer never put the claimant back on the schedule. The employer did not appear to present testimony or evidence. The claimant was discharged when the employer failed to schedule her for work. The employer has presented no evidence of misconduct. Reverse the AT, no misconduct, sever validity of claim.
The AT decision should be modified to sever the validity of claim issue. As to the job separation, the claimant stopped working due to illness. However, the evidence also shows that the claimant did not make a wholehearted attempt to contact the employer for further work once her symptoms subsided. As the claimant failed to take adequate steps to protect her job, she quit without work-connected good cause, and we should modify the AT decision. Voluntary leaving, sever the validity of claim issue.
Modify the AT, voluntary leaving, validity of claim.
Short form dissent.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Alvarez.
Case number 2617520, Commissioner Alvarez.
The AT decision on the separation is not supportable. The claimant worked for a temporary help firm and was required to report for reassignment by speaking to a recruiter. The claimant called on the day of and the day after her assignments ended and spoke to the same receptionist both times. The receptionist did not transfer the claimant to the recruiter despite the facts that the claimant inquired about further assignment and then specifically asked to speak to a recruiter. The claimant was told that the recruiter would call him back, but nobody returned his call. The claimant effectively made himself available for assignment and should not be disqualified. Modify the AT, valid claim, no misconduct, void chargeback.
The appeal tribunal decision should be affirmed. First, I agree that the claimant filed a valid claim and that the chargeback ruling should be voided. As to the job separation, the claimant signed the employer's policies and stated that he understood the guidelines he signed. Nonetheless, the claimant reported back to the employer in a manner that did not meet the guidelines he signed and understood. The employer's policies specifically stated that failure to report back for reassignment could affect unemployment benefits. The employer's policy also stated that speaking with the receptionist or anyone other than a counselor would not constitute a call-in for availability. As such, when the claimant notified the receptionist of his availability, he failed to comply with the employer's policy, thereby quitting without work-connected good cause. We should therefore affirm the AT decision, valid claim, voluntary leaving, void chargeback ruling.
Affirm the AT, valid claim, voluntary leaving, void chargeback.
Ms. Miller, short form dissent?
Yes, sir, Commissioner Alvarez.
Case number 2621970, Commissioner Alvarez.
The AT2 decision is not supportable on the good cause issue. The claimant attempted to call in for the AT1 hearing, but was unable to put the call through due to reception problems and at his aunt's house. The claimant made a good faith effort to participate in the hearing and had good cause for the non-appearance. Reverse the AT good cause for their non-appearance at AT1 and resubmit the case for the merits.
The appeal tribunal decision should be affirmed. The claimant did not participate in the hearing due to poor telephone service at the location he was at during the time of the hearing. However, he was at that location due to a personal reason that did not appear to constitute an emergency. Moreover, the claimant stated that he received the hearing package shortly after it was mailed, and from the context of his testimony, appears to have known that the location he would eventually visit had poor reception. Moreover, the evidence in the case indicates that the claimant did not seek alternative measures to participate in the hearing. In sum, the claimant's non-appearance was of his own doing and without good cause. As to the job separation, the claimant provided information to the commission sufficient to establish that he violated the employer's rules and policies, which constituted work-connected misconduct. We should therefore affirm the AT decision. The claimant did not have good cause for his non-appearance, misconduct, void the chargeback ruling.
Reverse the AT, claimant established good cause for AT1, resubmit.
We will resubmit the case.
Case number 2622424, Commissioner Demerson.
Let me get this. The appeal tribunal decision should be reversed, and this case should be decided under section 207.045 of the Act. It was not reasonable for the claimant to interpret the employer's comments as a discharge. What the employer revealed in terms of its thought process at the AT hearing was not known to the claimant at the time the separation occurred and is therefore immaterial to the outcome of this case. The employer never testified that it told the claimant he was fired or terminated. In addition, the claimant himself testified that the employer's previous tardiness notice did not mean much to him because everyone was late and management never did anything about it. As such, his belief that he was being fired based off an ambiguous comment that he was connected to being late to work was not reasonable. Instead, the weight of the credible evidence establishes that the claimant did not clarify his job status with the employer when the comment was made and walked off the job, thereby quitting without work-connected good cause. We should therefore reverse the AT decision, voluntary leaving, no chargeback, adequate employer response.
The decision should be affirmed. During a meeting to discuss his tardiness, the employer told the claimant, "It's not going to work this way," and the claimant interpreted this to mean that he was fired. The claimant's interpretation is supported by the employer's testimony that they intended to discharge the claimant during the meeting. The employer had a new attendance policy that provided for a verbal warning, a written warning, and a suspension prior to the discharge for attendance issues. The employer chose to skip those steps and did not follow their own policy. As the employer did not follow their own policy prior to discharging the claimant in accordance with commission precedents, the employer has not shown misconduct. Affirm the AT, no misconduct, chargeback.
Reverse the AT, voluntary leaving, no chargeback, adequate employer response.
Short form dissent.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Alvarez.
Case number 2638130, Commissioner Alvarez.
The AT decision should be reversed. The claimant quit her job due to fear of contracting COVID-19. She has diabetes and chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, which put her at risk of severe illness or death from the virus. The employer did not provide adequate personal protective equipment, enforce social distancing, or check employees for symptoms. The claimant notified supervisors of her concerns, but they were not addressed. The claimant therefore quit the job due to fear of contracting COVID-19. The claimant's health condition and the employer's failure to take adequate measures to protect employees gave the claimant good cause connected with the work to resign. Modify the AT, no voluntary leaving, no chargeback due to disaster.
Agree with that. We should modify the appeal tribunal decision because the evidence supports the conclusion that the job separation resulted from the COVID-19 natural disaster. The claimant should be qualified for benefits and the employer's account should be protected from charge. Accordingly, we should modify the AT decision, no voluntary leaving, no chargeback, separation caused by a disaster.
Modify the 18, no voluntary leaving, no chargeback, disaster.
Thank you. We have a unanimous decision.
Case number 2656654, Commissioner Alvarez.
The decision should be reversed. The claimant is not on break between school terms. The claimant normally works for the employer during the summer months. The documentary evidence confirms that the claimant was scheduled to work at a camp during the summer, but the camp was closed due to COVID-19. Since the claimant was not between school terms, reasonable assurance is not applicable. Reverse the AT, no reasonable assurance, not between school terms, no overpayment.
We should affirm the appeal tribunal decision because the claimant had reasonable assurance of returning to work for the fall term. The school wages should be suppressed. In addition, because the wage suppression is appropriate, the resulting overpayment is also appropriate. We should affirm the AT decision. The claimant had reasonable assurance May 31st, 2020 through August 15th, 2020. Overpayment of $2,485.
Reverse the AT, claimant did not have reasonable assurance.
Short form.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Demerson.
Thank you.
Case number 2669302, Commissioner Alvarez.
The decision should be modified. The claimant had reported her ongoing issues with the operations manager to the employer. The claimant was then diagnosed with anxiety disorder with panic. She provided medical documentation to the employer and quit on the advice of her doctor. The claimant provided a letter from her doctor stating that she was unable to be employed at that time. As the claimant quit on the advice of her doctor, she should be qualified for benefits and the employer's account protected from charge. Modify the AT, no voluntary leaving, no chargeback, MVI. Employer is a party of interest and memo to investigate the claimant's ability to work.
We should affirm the appeal tribunal decision. The claimant felt that the working environment was hostile, yet the evidence established that the claimant violated workplace rules and policies and that her infractions were addressed by management. While the claimant may have disagreed with the reprimands, she failed to meet the burden that her working conditions were intolerable. As for medical issues, the claimant quit right after submitting medical documentation to the employer. Because the claimant did not give the employer an opportunity to address her concerns, and the documentation that the claimant provided did not advise her to quit, the claimant quit without good cause connected with the work. We should affirm the AT decision, voluntary leaving, no chargeback.
Affirm the AT, voluntary leaving, no chargeback, employer is a party of interest, memo to UIA and OS to reflect that employer is a party of interest.
Yes, sir. We have a majority vote that the claimant left with good cause connected with the work, employer protected, MVI. Memo to UIA and OS, the employer is PI. Commissioner Alvarez, did you also want a memo sent on the claimant's ability to work?
Let me check with counsel. No.
Okay. And Commissioner Demerson?
Yes, and let me make sure we're solid on the vote. So I'm affirming the AT decision, voluntary leaving, no chargeback.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
That's what I've got as well.
okay. All right. So we're good there. So there's no need to short form dissent.
Oh, my apologies.
Okay.
Voluntary leaving, no chargeback. We have a unanimous decision.
Case number 2669750, Commissioner Demerson.
Excuse me, Heath.
Oh.
I need to go back and make
Okay.
sure I stated that correctly. Commissioner Demerson, you want the claimant to be qualified to receive benefits. Is that correct?
No,
Okay, not qualified. And Mr. Chairman, did you want the claimant qualified or not qualified?
Not qualified.
Not qualified. Okay, we have a majority vote that the claimant is disqualified. Employer is protected from chargeback. Memo to UIA and OS to make the employer a party of interest. And Commissioner Alvarez, do you have a dissent?
Check real quick. Ms. Miller, short form dissent?
Yes, sir, I have that short form dissent. My
you.
apologies, gentlemen. We'll move on now to the 10th case, which is case number 2669750. Commissioner Demerson?
We should modify the appeal tribunal decision. I do not dispute that the claimant quit due to the medically verified illness of her infant child. However, despite the claimant being qualified for benefits under the exception to disqualification found in the statute, her reason for quitting was personal in nature. The claimant did not have good cause connected with the work for quitting. Therefore, under section 205.0125 of the Act, the employer should not be liable for any reimbursement based on this job separation. Accordingly, we should modify the AT decision, no voluntary leaving, MVI, reimbursing employer not billed, void the adequate response issue.
The decision should be reversed. No voluntary leaving, bill reimbursing employer, and void adequate response. The claimant was separated between her 3-month-old hospital. The claimant was separated when her 3-month-old was hospitalized for 18 days. Even after the child's discharge from the hospital, he required ongoing care, which the claimant needed to provide. As the claimant was separated due to the illness of her minor child, the claimant had good cause to quit. Reverse AT, no voluntary leaving, MBI, bill reimbursing employer, void adequate response.
Reverse the AT, no voluntary leaving, bill reimbursing employer, void adequate response.
Commissioner Demerson?
I'm thinking that Commissioner Alvarez and I are on the same page there. I'll read mine. So I'm modifying the AT decision, no voluntary leaving, MVI, reimbursing employer not bill, void the adequate response issue.
Commissioner Alvarez, could you clarify your vote, please?
Yes, ma'am. Reverse the AT, no voluntary leaving, MVI, bill reimbursing employer, void adequate response.
So it appears there's a majority vote to bill the employer, sir.
Well, I'm in short form dissent there.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Next case, please.
Case number 2707538. Commissioner Alvarez?
The decision is not supportable. The claimant worked as a bus driver. The claimant was supposed to return to work in August. The claimant did not return to work at the beginning of the fall semester because the employer delayed the start of the fall semester. The claimant is entitled to retroactive payments under section 207.041C because he was not returned to duty at the end of his scheduled summer break. Reverse the AT, no reasonable assurance. In the alternative, the case should be reheard to find the precise date the claimant was originally scheduled to return to work. The suppression of wages should not extend past the date the summer break was supposed to end.
The AT decision should be affirmed. The parties agreed that the claimant had reasonable assurance of further work during the summer break, and the claimant returned to work in the fall. As such, the suppression of wages for the determined period is appropriate. We should affirm the AT decision. The claimant had reasonable assurance from May 31st, 2020 through September 6, 2020.
Rehear.
We will rehear the case.
Case number 2715629. Commissioner Alvarez?
The decision should be reversed. The claimant was not on a break between semesters. The claimant works year-round. The documentary evidence makes it clear that the claimant was temporarily laid off and was not on regular scheduled summer break. Reasonable assurance is not applicable to the applicant. Correction, not applicable to the claimant. Reverse AT, no reasonable assurance, not between school terms.
The available evidence in the record is sufficient to support the AT decision. Accordingly, we should affirm the AT decision. The claimant had reasonable assurance beginning June 7th, 2020 and ending August 15th, 2020.
Reverse the AT claimant did not have reasonable assurance.
Short form.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Demerson.
Thank you.
Case number 2716551, Commissioner Alvarez.
The decision should be modified. I agree that the claimant's appeal should be deemed timely due to one-time exception for wage credit cases. With regard to the underlying issue, the claimant testified that she teaches classes year-round. Documents and evidence demonstrate that the claimant was scheduled to teach during the summer. Because the summer was not a scheduled break between semesters for the claimant and was a time period in which she was scheduled to teach, reasonable assurance is not applicable. Modify the AT, timely claimant appeal, no reasonable assurance, not between school terms.
We should affirm the appeal tribunal decision. I agree that the claimant filed a timely appeal. As to the reasonable assurance issue, because the claimant had reasonable assurance of returning for the fall term, suppression of her school wages is appropriate. We should affirm the AT decision, timely claimant appeal. The claimant had reasonable assurance from May 17, 2020 through August 22nd, 2020.
Modify the AT, timely claimant appeal. Claimant did not have reasonable assurance.
Short form.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Demerson.
Thank you.
And that was the last pulled case on docket 9. Earlier in the meeting, I did forward you the short form dissent list for the UI cases on docket 9.
I'll move we accept staff recommendations on the remaining UI cases on docket 9.
Chairman, I second the motion except for those cases on which I'm dissenting as reflected on the UI short form dissent list for docket 9.
I concur with the chairman's motion, except for the cases on which I'm as reflected in the UI short form dissent list for docket 9.
Motion passes with the exceptions noted. And now, docket 10.
Case number 2549818, Commissioner Alvarez.
What was that case number again?
Case number 2549818, Commissioner Alvarez.
Okay, thank you. The decision should be modified. The employer filed a timely protest and a timely appeal, and the claimant filed a valid claim. Regarding the job separation, the claimant was in a third-party correction in the third trimester of her pregnancy and worked as a dental hygienist. The claimant's doctor advised the claimant not to work until the end of her pregnancy due to the higher risk of COVID-19 complications. The claimant provided a letter from her doctor to this effect. As the claimant quit on the advice of her doctor, she should be qualified for benefits and the employer's account protected from charge. Modify the AT, timely protest, timely employer appeal, valid claim, no voluntary leaving, no chargeback, MVI, and set aside adequate response.
The AT decision should be modified. I agree that the employer filed a timely protest as well as a timely appeal. I also agree that the claimant filed a valid claim. As to the job separation, I would agree to qualify the claimant under the disaster provisions of the Act. However, a memo should be sent to UIA and OS to investigate the claimant's ability to work based on her pregnancy. In addition, the adequate response ruling should be voided. Accordingly, we should modify the AT decision, timely employer protest, timely employer appeal, valid claim, no voluntary leaving, no chargeback, separation due to disaster. Void adequate response ruling and send a memo to UIA and OS to investigate the claimant's ability to work.
Modify the AT, timely employer protest, timely employer appeal, valid claim, no voluntary leaving, no chargeback, disaster. Void adequate response, memo to UIA and OS to investigate the claimant's ability to work and possible unreported earnings.
Thank you. Majority vote, timely protest, timely employer appeal. Claimant is qualified to receive benefits, leaving work voluntarily, and the employer's account is protected from charge under disaster impacted analysis. Void the adequate response ruling, and a memo to UIA and OS, Commissioner Demerson for ability to work, and Mr. Chairman for possible unreported earnings. And Commissioner Alvarez?
I would agree with the chair.
Thank you, sir.
Case number 2562205, Commissioner Alvarez.
The decision should be reversed. No severance, disqualification, no overpayment. The claimant was paid 20% of her prior salary while on furlough. The claimant reported these amounts to TWC as earnings on her payment request, and her benefits were reduced accordingly. As the claimant was paid only 1/5 of her prior salary, it was not equivalent to her prior pay and should not be disqualifying. Therefore, the AT decision should be reversed. Reverse the AT, no severance, disqualification, no overpayment.
The AT decision should be reversed. The pay the claimant received did not cover her full wages. Thus, it cannot constitute disqualifying severance pay. We should therefore reverse the AT decision, no severance pay disqualification, no overpayment, deem the employer a party of interest.
Reverse the AT, no severance disqualification, no overpayment. Memo to UIA and OS to investigate possible unreported earnings.
Mr. Chairman, do you have a vote on the employer PI issue?
Yes. They are a party of interest.
Thank you, sir. And it looks like we have a unanimous decision. It's no severance pay, no overpayment, and a majority vote that employer is PI. Commissioner Alvarez, did you want to, you technically have the ability to dissent on the PI issue. Did you want to do that?
No dissent on the issue.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Case number 2585072, Commissioner Demerson.
The AT decision should be reversed. The material facts are not in dispute. The parties agree that the claimant worked as a full employee until she asked to transfer to the linen department where employers work as needed. The claimant worked in her newly elected PRN position for several weeks before the employer allegedly notified her to stop reporting to work. Thus, the job separation in this case occurred when the claimant completed her last PRN shift before filing her claim. And since the claimant elected to transition to the PRN position on her own accord, any periods of unemployment are attributable to her. Since the evidence shows that the claimant transferred to a PRN position for personal reasons, she should be deemed to have quit without work-connected good cause. Accordingly, we should reverse the AT decision, voluntary leaving, reimburse an employer not bill, adequate employer response.
The decision is correct. The claimant had been performing services as a PRN employee. Due to an effect to the reduced staff in the hospital to improve social distancing, the claimant was instructed to stop working and no longer report to work. Since the claimant was laid off due to the pandemic, she is entitled to benefits. Affirm the AT, no misconduct, bill reimburse an employer.
Affirm the AT, no misconduct, bill reimbursing employer.
Short form.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Demerson.
Thank you.
Case number 2586194, Commissioner Alvarez.
The AT decision should be reversed. The claimant was paid severance pay after his separation pursuant to a written employer policy that was in effect before the separation. The claimant was entitled to severance pay that was calculated based on the claimant's length of service according to the employer's written severance pay policy. Since a payment was required under the employer's written policy, the payment was negotiated by the parties before the work separation, and the payment was not disqualifying under Section 207.049B2 of the Act. Reverse the AT, severance pay eligible, and no overpayment.
The AT decision should be modified. Since none of the exceptions listed in Section 207.049B of the Act apply to this case, the payments the claimant received constitute disqualifying severance pay. Moreover, the evidence established that the pay the claimant received was intended to cover 12 weeks worth of the claimant's salary. Therefore, the AT decision should be modified to extend the disqualification period from 8 weeks to 12 weeks. Accordingly, we should modify the AT decision, severance pay disqualification from May 17, 2020 through August 8, 2020. UIA and OS to recalculate the overpayment and make the employer a party of interest.
Reverse the AT, no severance disqualification, no overpayment, employer is party of interest.
On a short form, Sherry.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Demerson.
Case number 2586308. Commissioner Dimerson.
The commission should grant a rehearing in this case. Regarding the job separation, the claimant states that she quit due to intolerable working conditions. The owner, who was present for the alleged final incident, was unavailable to testify at the AT hearing due to being out of town. He should have an opportunity to provide his firsthand testimony before we render a decision in this case. Accordingly, we should rehear this case to obtain testimony from the owner.
The decision is correct. The claimant quit after the owner yelled at her, including the use of profanity and derogatory language. The claimant's decision to immediately quit due to the language directed at her was with good cause. Affirm the AT, valid claim, no voluntary leaving, chargeback.
Rehear.
We will rehear the case.
Case number 2601299. Commissioner Alvarez.
The AT decision is not supportable. The employer was financially hurt by the pandemic, and they decided to disband the claimant's department. The employer decided to offer the claimant a voluntary retirement package due to the length of her employment. If the claimant had not accepted the package, both parties testified that she definitely was going to be laid off because there was no positions available for the claimant's skill set. The employers emphatically stated in the AT hearing that the claimant's work separation was not voluntary. The claimant was laid off due to the lack of work. Modify the AT, no misconduct, no chargeback due to disaster, recalculate the overpayment. Correction, recompute the overpayment.
The appeal tribunal decision should be affirmed. The claimant quit in anticipation of discharge. The weight of the credible evidence establishes that there was no set date on when the claimant would be laid off. As such, the claimant quit for the personal reason of accepting a voluntary severance package, which was without work-connected good cause. We should therefore affirm the AT decision, voluntary leaving, no chargeback, overpayment of $1,042. In the alternative, if my fellow commissioners are of the opinion that the claimant was laid off, it should also be found that the employer's account should be protected from charge by way of a disaster analysis. The employer stated that the company had to make business decisions based on the pandemic and the economic downturn. Accordingly, I could support a vote of no misconduct, no chargeback, no overpayment, separation due to disaster.
Reverse the AT, no misconduct, no chargeback, disaster, no overpayment.
We have a unanimous decision that the claimant is not disqualified, the employer is protected, and a majority decision of no overpayment. Commissioner Alvarez, you voted to recalculate the overpayment. Do you agree with the reversal of the overpayment?
Ms. Miller, I agree.
Thank you very much. We
Yes,
have
ma'am.
a unanimous decision.
Case number 2616262. Commissioner Alvarez.
The AT decision should be reversed. The claimant was a pizza delivery driver who was required as a part of his job to come into close contact with customers. Despite the claimant's request to a supervisor, the employer refused to provide the claimant PPE such as face masks to perform the job. The claimant quit due to the risk he could contract COVID-19. The employer's refusal to provide PPE placed the claimant at risk of infection from COVID-19 and gave the claimant good cause connected with the work to quit. Reverse the AT, no voluntary leaving, void chargeback.
The appeal tribunal decision should be modified. First, I agree that since the employer was not a base period employer, the chargeback ruling should be voided. As to the job separation, the claimant quit due to concerns about workplace safety. However, as detailed in the claimant's fact-finding statements, which should hold greater weight since they were taken closer to the time of the job separation, he stated that he failed to discuss the alleged unsafe working conditions with the employer. As such, the claimant did not allow the employer an adequate opportunity to address his concerns, and his resignation was without work-connected good cause. We should therefore modify the AT decision, voluntary leaving, void chargeback.
Modify the AT, voluntary leaving, void chargeback.
Ms. Miller, short form dissent?
Yes, sir, Commissioner Alvarez.
Case number 2627939. Commissioner Alvarez.
The decision should be reversed. The claimant was concerned that several coworkers had tested positive for COVID and one had died. Even though the claimant had no symptoms, the claimant was tested for COVID-19. The claimant continued working while waiting for her results. The employer claimed that the claimant violated policy by continuing to work. The employer failed to produce any documentary evidence of such a policy and failed to provide any sworn testimony regarding the policy. The claimant denied that she had ever been told that she was required to quarantine while waiting for test results. The evidence fails to establish misconduct connected with the work. Reverse AAT, no misconduct.
The appeal tribunal decision should be affirmed. The claimant voluntarily took a COVID test because of concern that she might have been exposed to COVID-19 due to a coworker's absence. The claimant continued to work while awaiting her test result, which ended up being positive. Given the claimant's concern that she might have been exposed to the virus and the danger the virus poses to others, it was unreasonable and not in the employer's best interest for her to continue to attend work while awaiting her test result. Claimant's actions, therefore, constituted work-connected misconduct. Accordingly, we should affirm the AT decision, misconduct.
Reverse the AT, no misconduct.
A short form dissent.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Demerson, I have your short form dissent.
Thank you.
Case number 2650245. Commissioner Demerson.
The appeal tribunal decision should be modified. I do not contest the good cause ruling. As to the job separation, even if the employer, a PEO, did not meet the criteria of section 207.045I of the Act, an analysis of the underlying reason for the separation is appropriate. In the case before us, the claimant stated in a fact-finding statement that work was stopping due to COVID-19. Accordingly, if it is found that the employer discharged the claimant, it should also be found that the employer's account be protected from charge due to the disaster. We should therefore modify the AT decision. The claimant had good cause for his non-appearance, no misconduct, no chargeback, disaster, void adequate response.
Ms. Miller, I would agree with Commissioner Demerson.
Thank you.
Agreed.
Yes, sir. We have a unanimous decision.
Case number 2655237. Commissioner Demerson.
We should affirm the appeal tribunal decision. I do not dispute that the claimant quit due to a medically verified illness resulting from her pregnancy. However, despite the claimant being qualified for benefits under the exception to disqualification found in the statute, her reason for quitting was personal in nature. As recognized by the appeal tribunal, the claimant did not have good cause connected with the work for quitting. Therefore, under section 205.0125 of the Act, the employer should not be liable for any reimbursement based on this job separation. Accordingly, we should affirm the AT decision, no voluntary leaving, MVI, reimbursing employer not billed. In addition, we should send a memo to investigate the claimant's ability to work based on her doctor's orders to cease working through the remainder of her pregnancy, as well as the claimant's ability and availability for work after the birth of her child.
The decision should be modified. No voluntary leaving, bill reimbursing employer. The claimant's doctor told the claimant not to work for the remainder of her pregnancy due to complications. The claimant provided medical documentation to the employer and for their hearing. The claimant was out of leave at the time, but returned to work for the employer when her doctor allowed her to do so. As the claimant was separated due to her medical issue on the advice of her doctor, she should be qualified for benefits. Modify the AT, no voluntary leaving, bill reimbursing employer.
Modify the AT, no voluntary leaving, bill reimbursing employer, memo to UIA and OS to investigate the claimant's ability to work.
I'm going to short form a dissent and per my previous comments, send a memo to investigate the claimant's ability and availability for work.
Yes, sir. I have your short form dissent and we will send a memo on both issues.
Thank you.
Case number 2656867. Commissioner Alvarez.
The decision is not supportable. The claimant was working overseas when his wife was called to active duty with the National Guard and deployed overseas. The claimant quit to return home to care for his minor children. The claimant's reasons for leaving were urgent, compelling, and necessary. Modify the AT, not disqualified, urgent, compelling, and necessary, no chargeback.
The appeal tribunal decision should be affirmed. The claimant ultimately quit his job to take care of his children. While I empathize with the claimant, he resigned due to a lack of child care, which is a personal reason without work-connected good cause. We should therefore affirm the AT decision, voluntary leaving, no chargeback.
Modify the AT, no voluntary leaving, no chargeback, urgent and compelling.
Short form.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Demerson.
Case number 2667283, Commissioner Alvarez.
The decision should be modified. The claimant was ill. The claimant tested negative for COVID-19. The employer wanted a copy of the test before it would allow her to return to work. The claimant requested the test results from her doctor. This was confirmed by sworn testimony of her witness, but the doctor never provided the claimant the test results. The claimant has provided several releases to return to work. The doctor's failure to produce the test results does not mean that the claimant committed misconduct. Modify the AT, no misconduct, no chargeback, disaster, no overpayment.
We should modify the appeal tribunal decision. Because the separation occurred when the claimant went on leave while continuing work was still available, the claimant is the party who initiated the job separation. The claimant's leave was caused by a personal illness, and the claimant submitted corresponding medical documentation. Thus, the record supports the conclusion that the claimant should be qualified for benefits and the employer's account should be protected from charge under a medical separation analysis. In addition, since the claimant was entitled to the benefits she received, the overpayment should be reversed. We should modify the AT decision, no voluntary leaving, no chargeback, MVI, no overpayment.
I concur with Commissioner Demerson.
We have a unanimous decision that the claimant is to receive benefits and the employer protected from charge, no overpayment. The rationale, however, will be under MVI and not disaster impacted.
Case number 2670379, Commissioner Alvarez.
The decision is not supportable. The claimant quit because the employer would not provide the claimant PPE, including a mask, to perform her nursing duties. The chief nurse officer confirmed that the claimant had complained repeatedly about the lack of PPE. The regional CEO confirmed that the employer was concerned about PPE preservation. The employer's failure to provide PPE provided the claimant with good cause connected with the work for quitting. Since the PPE shortages were due to the pandemic, the employer's account should be protected. Modify the AT, no voluntary leaving, no chargeback, disaster.
We should affirm the appeal tribunal decision. The claimant quit from fear of COVID-19. While she alleged that the employer was not providing a safe working environment, the employer was following the CDC guidelines at the time. Almost a year later, it is easy to forget that during the first few weeks of the pandemic crisis, CDC guidelines were evolving to address the health and safety of individuals as well as the PPE shortages across the country. Because the employer was following the recommended guidelines at the time, and the claimant did not provide any evidence that due to a medical condition or heightened risk, she required more PPE protection than what the employer was providing, the claimant quit without good cause connected with the work. We should affirm the AT decision, voluntary leaving, no chargeback.
The AT, no voluntary leaving, no chargeback, disaster.
I agree with the chairman of disaster.
Thank you. We have a unanimous decision.
Case number 2682789, Commissioner Alvarez.
The decision should be reversed. The claimant quit due to an unsafe working environment. 2 members of the claimant's 6-member team tested positive for COVID, as did 8 members of a 15-member team that claimant routinely worked with. The employer allowed employees who tested positive to continue working. Additionally, the employer did not require employees to quarantine before returning to work after international travel. As the employer made the choice to ignore guidance on COVID safety procedures, the employer was well aware of the issues this would cause. Therefore, the claimant had good cause to quit due to the unsafe working environment. Reverse the AT, no voluntary leaving.
We should affirm the appeal tribunal decision. The claimant quit without advance notice and without giving the employer an explanation or reason for his quitting. By not affording the employer an opportunity to address his concerns, the claimant quit without good cause connected with the work. We should affirm the AT decision, voluntary leaving.
Affirm the AT, voluntary leaving.
Short form dissent.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Alvarez.
Case number 2707487, Commissioner Dimerson.
We should modify the appeal tribunal decision. Due to the claimant's serious medical condition, the employer modified the terms and conditions of her employment in attempts to accommodate her restrictions and keep the claimant employed. Despite the employer's best efforts, the claimant was unable to fulfill the functions of her job due to her evolving medical issues, and the employer ultimately discharged her. Because the job separation resulted from the claimant's medically verifiable illness, the claimant should remain qualified for benefits, and the employer's account should be protected from charge under a medical separation analysis. Accordingly, we should modify the AT decision, no misconduct, no chargeback, MVI.
Ms. Miller, I agree with Commissioner Dimerson.
Yes, sir.
Agreed.
Yes, sir. Thank you. We have a unanimous decision.
Case number 2718937, Commissioner Alvarez.
The AT decision should be reversed. The claimant signed up for work as a private investigator but was never given any jobs. The claimant continues to be eligible for PUA benefits based on her last employment separation. The fact that she signed up for potential jobs but was never given any should have no bearing on her eligibility. Reverse the AT, PUA eligible.
Agree. The AT decision is not supportable. The claimant was eligible for PUA benefits from the time she filed her in May 2020 through mid-November 2020, at which time she became ineligible after it came to light that she had tried to start working for a company. In fact, that company never put her to work and never actually employed her. Since she was not employed by that company, she did not become unemployed when they continued to not employ her. It appears that the claimant's status never actually changed from the time she became eligible for PUA benefits, so she should not be held ineligible simply because of a job opportunity that never materialized. Accordingly, we should reverse the AT decision. The claimant was eligible for PUA benefits beginning November 15, 2020.
Reverse the AT, claimant is eligible for pandemic unemployment assistance.
Thank you. We have unanimous decision.
Case number 2724444, Commissioner Dimerson.
We should reverse the appeal tribunal decision. Testimony from the employer, in addition to the claimant's statement in her appeal, clearly established that the claimant signed the letter of reasonable assurance. If the AT is going to reverse the initial determination based on the fact that the employer did not submit written statements which provide facts that an employee has been asked to continue in that same capacity for the following academic term, then the employer should have been provided notice of the need for these documents. The employer was not provided such notice prior to the hearing. Therefore, because the preponderance of the evidence established that the claimant had reasonable assurance of returning the following school year, we should reverse the AT decision. The claimant's school wages should be suppressed from May 31st, 2020 through August 29th, 2020, and an overpayment of $1,160. In the alternative, because the AT reversed the initial determination based on the employer's failure to provide certain documents without having provided the employer notice of this requirement, we should rehear this case to allow the employer an opportunity to submit the written statements required by the precedent case cited by the AT in its decision.
The decision is correct. When the school year began, the claimant was informed the only position available was for those who were already familiar with the employer's technical standards. The claimant had not been trained and did not qualify. The claimant was not provided with a position. The employer did not clarify what the requirements were until after the claimant was able to return to work in November. Since the claimant was not offered any opportunity to perform services when the school year began, her wages should not be suppressed. Affirm the AT, no reasonable assurance, no overpayment.
Reverse the AT. Claimant had reasonable assurance May 31, 2020 through August 29, 2020. Overpayment.
Short form dissent.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Alvarez.
Case number 2725625, Commissioner Alvarez.
The decision should be reversed. The employer provided hearsay testimony to support its allegations that the claimant was confrontational with the coworker. The claimant denied the allegations under oath. The claimant's sworn testimony carries greater weight than the hearsay offered by the employer. The evidence fails to establish misconduct. Reverse the AT, no misconduct, chargeback, no overpayment.
We should affirm the appeal tribunal decision. Multiple witness statements established that the claimant was argumentative and physically intimidating during an interaction with her supervisor at the front desk. This incident occurred in front of coworkers and patients. In light of the fact that the claimant did not specifically describe the final incident, the employer has met its burden of proving that the claimant mismanaged her position of employment. Because the disqualification is appropriate, the resulting overpayment is also appropriate. We should affirm the AT decision, misconduct, no chargeback, overpayment of $3,126.
Reverse the AT. No misconduct. Chargeback. No overpayment.
Short form.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Demerson.
Thank you.
Case number 2726766, Commissioner Alvarez.
The decision should be reversed. The claimant was initially separated when her client lost Medicaid eligibility. The claimant was expecting to return to work, but the client did not allow the claimant to return to work when the client fixed the medical issue. The client did not want the claimant to return to work because the claimant rode the bus to work, and the client was concerned about the increased exposure to COVID-19 due to the claimant's use of public transportation. The client replaced the claimant. The CARES Act provides that individuals who are unable to commence employment due to the pandemic are also eligible for PUA. Since the claimant was not allowed to return to work for the client as a direct result of the pandemic, she is eligible for PUA. Reverse the AT, PUA eligible.
The AT decision is not supportable. The claimant gave undisputed testimony to the effect that work became unavailable with her last client due to the client's Medicare eligibility problems, and because the client did not want the claimant to come to work via bus transportation out of fear that the claimant would become affected with COVID-19 and bring it into the client's home. That's a circumstance that meets one of the eligibility criteria for PUA benefits that are outlined in DOL's UI program letter 16 through 20. The PUA provision do not require that the reason for unemployment be exclusively pandemic related. It's sufficient that the pandemic be the deciding factor. If the claimant had been able to get to the client's home without using the bus, the client could continue using the claimant as a provider with some other source of funding, which in fact happened with the claimant's replacement. All of the factors being equal, the pandemic was the deciding factor in making the claimant unemployed. Accordingly, we should reverse the AT decision. The claimant was eligible for PUA benefits beginning November 22nd, 2020.
Concur with Commissioner Demerson.
Thank you. We have a unanimous decision.
Case number 2729709, Commissioner Demerson.
We should reverse the appeal tribunal decision. The case before us stems from an initial claim that has been ruled to be fraudulent based on the theft of the claimant's identity. Both the employer and the claimant have testified that there has been no job separation and that the claimant did not file a claim. Since the named claimant did not file a claim nor request benefits, and the employer's only connection to this claim is the name of one of its current employees who is illegally used in filing the claim, the employer should not be held responsible for benefits paid out to a third-party fraudster. Accordingly, we should reverse the AT decision, reimburse an employer, not bill.
The decision is supportable. The Act does not currently contain protections for a reimbursing employer in this specific circumstance. As there has been no separation, there are no available protections for the employer's account. Affirm the AT, bill reimbursing employer.
Reverse the AT. Reimbursing an employer, not billed. Memo to UIA and OS to investigate invalidating this claim.
agree with the chair.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Alvarez?
I have no dissent.
You do not have a dissent, sir. Okay. Then it is a unanimous decision, and we will send a memo to UIA and OS to investigate invalidating the claim. And that was the last pulled case, the last pulled UI case for docket 10. Earlier in the meeting, I did send you the UI short form dissent list for docket 10.
We accept staff recommendations on the remaining UI cases on docket 10.
Chairman, I second the motion except for those cases on which I'm dissenting as reflected on the UI short form dissent list for docket 10.
I concur with the chairman's motion, except for the cases on which I'm dissenting, as reflected in the UI short form dissent list for docket 10.
Motion passes with the exceptions noted.
Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you. This brings us to the end of agenda items 3 through 7. Let's pause for a few moments to read the rest.
Sherry, thank you guys, team.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Commissioner.
Got it.
let's pick up with agenda item 8, discussion, consideration, and possible action regarding the acceptance of pledges for board contract years 2020, 2021 child care matching funds.
Good morning, gentlemen. All right. Chairman Daniel, Commissioners, Mr. Cerna. For the record, Travis Weaver, Workforce Development Division. Today, Workforce Development and Child Care and Early Learning are presenting for your approval BCY 2021 Child Care Local Match. Annually, local workforce development boards submit local match pledges to secure federal child care funds pursuant to Commission Rule 80917. Commissioners, a couple of comments prior to our requests. Today's agenda includes 18 match agreements from 10 boards, which includes Borderplex, Cameron County, Capital Area, Concho Valley, Dallas, Heart of Texas, Lower Rio, Northeast, Southeast, and Texoma. All boards have secured a portion of match, with all boards securing at least 50% of their total. Of the 26 boards have secured match, of which 11 have exceeded their local BCY 21 match target. Boards have secured 102.67% of statewide child care local match target compared to 108.92% at this time last year. One item of note, due to a longstanding partner not participating this year for Cameron County, the board was able to secure pledges from 2 new partners, City of Harlingen and the County of Cameron. Due to the new partners, Cameron County was able to secure their local match target for BCY 21. We are very appreciative that the board was not only able to secure new partners, but was also able to expand their local partnership for childcare. Today, staff requests commission acceptance of childcare pledges for donations, transfers, and certifications of expense for BCY 21 in the amount of $6,645,028. Commissioners, this concludes my comments for BCY 21. I am happy to answer any questions.
Any comments or questions?
Well, thank you, Mr. Weaver, for the report.
Good work in that space.
Good work.
Thank you.
Just further proof we should never underestimate the ingenuity of people from Cameron County. All right. We have a motion on this issue.
Chairman, I love that. You make me cry here. I move that we accept child care match in the amount of $6,645,028 for board contract year 2021.
Second motion.
Moved and seconded. We're unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
This is agenda item 9, discussion, consideration, and possible action regarding the RESEA state plan for 2021 for submission to U.S. Department of Labor.
Of course, it's frozen. Ethan, are you ready? Yes, sorry, everybody. I'm having a little bit of a connection issue. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir. We can hear you fine.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners, Mr. Cerna. For the record, my name is Ethan Hurd with Workforce Development. For your consideration this morning is the Reemployment Services and Eligibility Assessment. That's the RESEA 2021 state plan. States are statutorily required to submit this plan annually to the U.S. Department of Labor. The plan is also an application for funding. Texas's allocation this year is $11,745,300, which is about $500,000 more than last year. This year's plan is largely the same as last year's plan as approved by DOL. The numbers are different to reflect the change in this year's allocation, but the methodology is the same. So this morning, staff is seeking approval of the 2021 RESEA state plan for submission to DOL, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Questions or comments?
None here, Chairman.
No questions here. Thank you.
Thank
Do we
you.
have a motion on this issue?
I move that we approve the Unemployment Insurance Reemployment Service and Eligibility Assessment Grant Plan, State Grant Plan, as discussed by staff.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Vote unanimous. Thank you. On agenda item 10, staff has nothing to report under agenda item 10. Agenda item 11, discussion, consideration, possible action regarding a discussion paper on child care excessive absence tracking.
Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners, Mr. Cerna. For the record, Allison Wilson with the Child Care and Early Learning Division. Today, for your consideration, we bring forward a discussion paper on temporary changes to requirements related to absence tracking for children participating in the subsidized childcare program. For the past year, the Commission has waived TWC's attendance standards as set forth in 40 TAC 80978, including the requirement to use TWC's automated attendance system. This waiver has provided relief to families during the COVID-19 emergency and has supported providers by allowing them to follow CDC guidance, limiting access to their facilities to reduce viral spread. TWC must procure a new automated attendance system. While we are in the procurement process and until procurement is complete, TWC will temporarily stop collecting all attendance data through an automated system. During this time, we will implement interim procedures to manually collect information from providers on excessive absences. Staff seeks direction on ending the waiver of 80978 that was previously approved on March 17th, 2020, and allowing boards to determine on a case-by-case basis if a child's absence is COVID-related and should be excused. Staff also seeks direction on issuing guidance on reinstating attendance requirements and interim procedures, including instructing childcare programs to provide notice to the board if a child accrues 5 consecutive absences, instructing boards to base 15 and 30-day absence notifications required under 80978D1 on 3 and 5 provider notices, respectively, and instructing boards that the definition of excessive absences as set forth in 809.210 as 40 absences will be based upon the receipt of 8 provider notices. And that concludes my remarks, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you. Questions or comments?
None here, Chairman.
No questions or comments.
Do we have a motion?
Chairman, I move that we end the prior waiver of 40 TAC 809.78 effective April 1st, 2021, and issue guidance on reinstating attendance requirements as presented by staff.
Second.
Vote unanimous. Thank you. Do we have anything on agenda item 12?
No, sir, we do not.
Thank you. This is agenda item 13, discussion, consideration, and possible action regarding approval of local workforce development board nominees.
Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners, and Mr. Cerna. For the record, Shanta Williams with the Workforce Development Division. And before you for consideration today are Workforce Board nominees for Workforce Solutions Capital Area, Golden Crescent, Gulf Coast, and Lower Rio Grande Valley. Staff recommends that all nominees be approved, and I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
Comments or questions?
None here.
None. Thank you.
Do we have a motion?
I move to approve the board nominees for Capital Area, Golden Crescent, Gulf Coast, and Lower Rio Grande Valley.
Second.
Been moved, second. Vote unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have nothing on agenda item 14. Let's see, agenda item 15, a legislative report. I believe Michael Britt's going to bring us a legislative report today.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, Mr. Cerna. For the record, Michael Britt, Governmental Relations. This past Saturday, the U.S. Senate passed H.R. 1319, the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021. The Senate did make changes to the UI portions of this bill. The changes made by the Senate would keep the Federal Unemployment Compensation Program, or FPUC, at $300 per week, which is a reduction of $100 per week from the U.S. House-passed version of the bill. And the Senate version of the bill does extend this benefit until September 6th of this year. The U.S. House is scheduled to take up the measure to concur with the Senate amendments to the bill this week, and that vote could occur as soon as this afternoon. Regarding the Texas legislature, the House Committee on International Relations and Economic Development has requested that TWC testify on House Bill 7 by Representative Button at their hearing on Wednesday. HB 7 would make changes to the replenishment ratio used to determine an employer's unemployment compensation tax rate. Also for the Texas legislature, the deadline for filing bills for the 87th Texas legislative session is this Friday, March 12th. That concludes my remarks, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Any questions?
None here, Chairman.
None. Thank you.
Thanks, Michael.
Thank you.
Now for the executive director's report.
Mr. Chairman, we continue to work on making changes in response to the governor's executive order with regard to the requirement for or the mandate for the use of face masks. In essence, what we will do for our employees, our contractors, and our customers is that will be something that will be strongly recommended in all of our offices, but not required in order to receive services or come to work. In addition, with the Commission's approval, we will be looking at making some modifications to the Commission hearing room or meeting room to allow for hybrid meetings beginning as early as next Tuesday. Again, if you all agree, those changes will include making sure that there's adequate space in the audience, plexiglass partitions between the commissioners. We will allow our staff to present either in person or via Zoom, as they have been doing successfully. But that'll let us continue to provide the information and respond to the questions of the commissioners in real time.
All right. Yeah, I think with the governor's announcement last week for changes, I think start happening tomorrow, and certainly for the commission to meet in person. Appreciate your work on that. I know that there's a lot of TWC employees that will be impacted, and certainly boards and board employees. Appreciate the thoughtfulness that's going into that. You know, as that gets developed, I'm sure we'll put that out in writing, and I think folks will be happy to see how that's clarified for them and have it in writing so they can see exactly what they need to be doing.
Yes, sir. We've got a message that we prepared that we'll send out later today that recognizes that this becomes effective tomorrow.
All right.
And that's all I have to report, gentlemen.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments for Ed?
No, thank you for the update, Ed.
Yes, sir.
None here. Thank you.
Great. All right. I do have one point of personal privilege. Wanted to welcome Ranjana Unithan to our office. She's joined us as a staff attorney and a policy advisor. I'm looking forward to working with her. She's got a great deal of TWC experience, and I'm delighted she's decided to join us over here.
Welcome aboard.
Welcome.
All right. One more thing to do today. The time is now 10:27. The Texas Workforce Commission is going into executive session in room 644 to discuss the appointment, employment, evaluation, reassignment, duties, discipline, or dismissal of the executive director, internal auditor, executive staff, personnel pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.074A1.
Test, 1, 2.
Chairman, you win.
Well, I had an unfair advantage.
You win. The commissioner's probably in the hallway talking, so let me see.
Couldn't picture that. We need to get some sort of background music or something to play.
That's right.
Like the Jeopardy theme or something.
That would have been pretty cool while we were out.
You know.
If you untie your bow tie and let it dangle, you could do some Sinatra.
Can we do all that? Yeah. It's before lunch. That's just not fair to everybody. If we do that.
No.
And there he is.
Sorry, I didn't make it stop.
Oh my. All right, the executive session is now concluding. The time is 11:13 p.m. Is there any other order of business come before the commission? Hearing none, is there a motion to adjourn?
Chairman, I we adjourn.
A second motion, Chairman, before we adjourn, just real quickly, I wanted to, and I don't know, Commissioner Alvarez was garbled. I don't know if mine is garbled or not. So
yours is not.
Okay, fine. Two quick points here. I wanted to commend the staff, Willette and the team on Black History Month. We had a great program from the agency last month as we closed out Black History Month. And then secondly, Jen Troke and her team, James, Courtney, the Foster Care Conference. We had the first lady attend that conference on last Friday, First Lady of the state of Texas and the First Lady of UTSA, and very well done conference. And I wanted to commend you and the team on that very well done, thought out, and very well received foster care conference. Thank you. I want to add those.
Thank you, sir. It was all the team.
Yeah, thank you.
All right.
That's it. I second that motion.
I have a motion to adjourn, seconded, and we are. Thank you.